Hey, welcome back to the BVB podcast. My name's Jacob, joined as always by Carver. How's it going, man? How are you doing?
Doing all right. How are you?
Doing pretty good. I do not have one of those fake backgrounds on behind my head. I just got some really funky wallpaper.
Calling mine fake?
No, I was looking at the fake backgrounds when I jumped on because I don't have my normal Dortmund background because I am working remote, as you will, in a hotel room right now. I do apologize.
Tell them where you're at.
Oh, I'm in lovely Palm Springs-ish area, California for MLS preseason. So
the man's living it up in Coachella, ladies and gentlemen, while I freeze my ass off here in 30-degree weather in St. Louis. Miserable day here.
I might have got a sunburn today. In the 70-degree weather. I might go to the pool later after we do the show. I don't know. No, it's pretty nice. I can't complain. I could complain about Florida. I won't complain about Coachella though. It's pretty nice.
Right.
And yeah, apologies for kind of a later episode. I know it's been a little over a week since we've done an episode, but given we talked about recording after the Kovač signing, talked about recording on a few days ago on Sunday, as we've been doing, but with deadline day a little extended. I forgot deadline day was going till like February 2nd. So at first I was like, guess we're not getting anybody. Pack it in. We're not bringing anyone in.
February 3rd. Yeah. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, wow. I don't know how it slipped my mind, but yeah, it gave us a few extra days here, especially with Kovač getting over the line. Also pretty late in the window too. It gave us him the chance to analyze what kind of players he was wanting. And of course, what is feasible for the club. So, and of course, not everything worked out, but there were some good additions here, which we'll talk about.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't have been surprised if we didn't bring anyone in because that was kind of the talk going into the window. Like we weren't going to do any business. I know Malin going out definitely opened some things up, and I'm happy to see the business that we did. I wish we probably would have got one more player in, but I was not expecting 3. I know one of them is going out on loan, so we'll touch on that later. We're going to get into, as we said, the signings. We'll get into Kovač a little bit. That's why we wanted to wait to really hit everything in one episode to recap as we get ready to move on in the Kovač era. We'll talk a little bit Champions League. There's been a couple matches, Shakhtar Donetsk and Heidenheim, the end of the Tullberg era, which I guess we can start there if you want, unless there's anything else you want to hit on. But yeah, wrapping up Champions League group phase or phase 1 or whatever it's called with a 3-1 home win over Shakhtar Donetsk. I know, Carver, we talked about like we'll probably wrap up these 2 matches a little together. This will be a little more general overview about Shakhtar, but just talking Tullberg in general, like looking at this match, like we see Guirassy get a brace. We haven't seen him score in open play in quite a while. He's been getting PKs. And then I know Benzabaini's been having definitely a better year than we talked about a lot last year. And he gets his goal, which is really nice to see. Like I know it's Shakhtar Donetsk. Like I know this is a match like we expect to win anyways. An opponent we expect to beat, but given the state of the club and what we've been in, Tullberg, like him being in as the interim for these 3 matches has just been really refreshing. Like I feel like the football seems simplified. Like I know what's happening and like you can see the passages of play, and I'm happy that he was able to just steady the ship a little bit. He did it even more so than I thought he probably would have. But yeah, this match was a really good example of that, I thought.
Yeah, I would agree. Obviously, you see him going ballistic on the sidelines for both of these games.
The end of the match, full time, fast forward to Heidenheim, but like the Heidenheim scenes at the end, incredible. But I love his energy on the touchline.
But also, I mean, in the Champions League too, after those goals, I mean, he was doing the same things. And, he mentioned after, I think it was the Heidenheim game, and he had some good post-game comments, and one of them was just saying this team is alive and breathing. And you could see that jolt of energy that he was wanting to implement in the team. It was there. And that's exactly what this team has needed for a while now. Even before Şahin, this club has just felt pretty stale and uninspiring. And, he's not the answer to all the problems, but it's exactly what we need at the moment, which is a big jolt of energy. And like you mentioned, Guirassy getting a few goals there. I do want to walk back a bit what I said about him maybe not performing on like a consistent basis in Europe. It's definitely not the case. 9 goals in 8 games now. He's been, arguably the best striker in the Champions League across Europe this year. So, hats off to him for still, pulling this team back into a position where they can still compete in the Champions League, and thankfully got a favorable draw as well after the Shakhtar game. And we march onward.
And just real quick I'll go through the lineup. I kind of want to get into Heidenheim even more so over this match, but I mean, kind of what you would expect to see, especially with Mullen out. Like, I know things change a little bit. Maybe this is a game where Reyna could have come in. This game also feels like it was so long ago, so I'm not going to try to validate maybe Reyna should have started or not, because, I mean, we got the 3-1 win, but I will go through the lineup. Kobel in goal, Ryerson right back, Chan and Schlotterbeck are two center backs. Schlotterbeck's obviously been suspended in the Bundesliga, so seeing him get the start in this, which you kind of see anyways. But Vinzavaini, left back, as we mentioned, had a great game. Brandt, Sabitzer, and Bayer are three midfield options. And then Adeyemi, right wing, Gittens on the left wing, and Girassi up top. Been seeing a lot more, I mean, with Mullen out, Gittens still playing decently well, like Adeyemi on the right. Yeah, that's where I think not saying Adeyemi shouldn't start, but seeing Bayer a little deeper. And then, I mean, he does come up into that kind of high 10 second striker position occasionally too. But yeah, him in the midfield, a little weird, but front line, nothing else really stands out to me in a bad way.
And Adeyemi got an assist that game, but he's been pretty underwhelming. I get he's an inverted winger now. It's a different part of his game that he's going to have to develop, but pretty ineffective, and he doesn't really start over Gittens at the moment, even though before the injury that was favoring him to be that starting left winger. Things have changed, of course, and now you're looking at the reports. Of course, the window is closed now, but Napoli was just about to get that deal over the line to get Adeyemi to Napoli. In the end, he himself personally wanted to stay at the club for a few more months and feel it out. Now we're seeing reports apparently he has a club lined up for the summer. I don't know if that's Juventus or not. That could just be all talk, but either way, there were official reports that he was on the verge of going to Napoli this window. And yeah, we'll have to see if he's going to be a bigger role in this attacking team going forward. The additions that we made in the transfer window have been strictly for the midfield, the back line, and also goalkeeper too, which we'll talk a bit about. So, there's still opportunity for him to turn things around if he wants it. There's minutes there. And of course, too, with the injury across the board here, it's anyone's game to get some more minutes.
You want to jump into Heidenheim? Touch a little more on this one?
Yeah.
Cool. Sure. I'll get with the jump in with the lineup again. Kobel in goal, Ryerson right back, Chan center back along with Anton. That is a little shift with Schlotterbeck being out with red card suspension. Benzabaini left back, if I didn't say that already. Gross, Brandt, and Sabitzer in the middle. There's been a lot of discussion about Sabitzer lately and seeing him come in, which I do as we talk about signings. Like, I talk about him a little more, not that he's a signing, but not same up top. Girassi, striker, Gittens on the left, and Durnville getting the start in this one, which we did only see him play the half before he got swapped out. But yeah, lineup for this one. On the road at Heidenheim.
Yeah, hard-fought win and a massive 3 points on the road. Only our second win on the road in the league this year so far. It's not the prettiest win by any stretch, but again, it's pretty deserved in the end. And just our first time doing the double on Heidenheim compared to last year, which is whenever we drew them twice in a row, even from similar positions where we were up 2 goals, and then eventually they would come back in that home game. But now here we are in Heidenheim actually getting 3 points on the road, which is massive here. Yeah,
I feel like we did a lot of we're a little critical of Girassi, mainly for his antics and flopping and complaining, which literally saw him get a yellow card. But as you mentioned in the Champions League game, gets a couple goals in there, gets another goal from coming off a corner kick, which was really great work by Anton, who, people have been critical of him too. And he does some extra work in the box. Nice little footwork in there to get the ball kind of just across right in front of the face of the goal. And Girassi able to put that away and no flopping on the ground this time, which is great. I think interesting. I'm just looking ahead at half, and I mentioned Durnville comes off and then Adeyemi comes on, which I get a little bit of rotation if that's the thing. And then it's weird seeing Adeyemi come off. It's never looks good when you sub the sub. I get that was definitely a tactical thing, but just weird in general to do the halftime sub. And then, I'm going to bring you off later, especially when I think we won the match. I don't have any problem with the tactical sub. I feel a little more for Adeyemi. That's not a good thing, especially when he's a player we've been able to see, if you want to go defensive, if you want to play him as a wing back, he's definitely shown those capabilities.
Yeah, but at the same time, it was a tactical shift, but I also, would respect him just taking him off in general because of the performance that he had in that second half. I mean, you had just 14 touches. You didn't have any ground duels won, no aerial duels won. I had a few interceptions, sure, and a few passes as well, but that was pretty much it. I mean, very, very uneventful, but it wasn't exclusive to him either. Sabitzer, like you mentioned before, very, very uninspiring game and very mid game, and it kind of sums up his whole season, really. And I remember earlier in the season when he was playing out of position as that number 7, a little higher up, and he was preferring to have more of the game in front of him, play more in that double pivot or even as a 6 at times if you wanted. I understood that point because, he did grow into the season very, very well last year, but you're running out of that excuse with the performances that like you've seen at the weekend here in this one as that number 6, even Benzema kind of playing centrally at times, but Sabitzer primary is at number 6 here, and very mid performance from him. And I think Brandt's kind of same too. I mean, you did see him take a bit more initiative in this game, which is what I wanted to see compared to these last few performances that Brandt has been putting on really this whole season, but still lack of precision there. Just not enough for me at the moment.
Well, hitting on the 6th position, I'm sure we covered it in the last episode, but again, that felt like so long ago, so I can't remember anything. But Mecha out with the injury. We see Sally Oshane come back, who's been on loan at Wolfsburg, who, I mean, when you're, I don't want to say established, like he hasn't been at the club that long, but especially in that, like you come play for the club for a year, roughly, maybe 2 years, and then we send him out on loan. It's kind of like the writing's on the wall. But given the Mecha injury, given our midfield options where, I mean, I would say Sabitzer when like he's been an issue, hasn't been performing, as you mentioned, the levels, but definitely the Mecha injury, like we see Oshane come back and get some minutes in this match. Like, I don't think it wasn't a standout performance by any means, but I don't hate having depth. Like we've seen it so many times, and we need that position, right? We need the CDM where Mech has been fantastic this year. So I'm honestly like, I'm happy to see him back. I know he wasn't even like playing a ton with Wolfsburg, or like the few Wolfsburg matches I've seen this year, he hadn't started. Maybe I just missed the ones where he was starting. I don't know if he was getting any solid minutes there, but I have no problem with him coming back, especially as he is a player we can have on our roster and just have that depth, especially now, needed more than ever. I think I was maybe even more surprised to see Sabitzer get the start again and not just slot him right in there.
Right. I think it's mutually beneficial as well, as Ozcan only started 11 games in Wolfsburg. Of course, it was only like half the season, but he didn't get too many minutes over there. And yeah, I think it could be good for him too to try to reignite himself and find any spot in the team. Will it happen? Who's to say? I mean, we still got a few months ahead of us. I'm not convinced, but of course, yeah, just a small sample size. And like you mentioned, depth is going to be crucial here these next few months.
There was one moment, I think it was between Anton and Oshane, like kind of clearing a ball out or like a ball coming into our 18. And there was just like definitely some miscommunication, or someone didn't call for the ball, and you see Anton kind of ripping into Oshane. And my only thought in that moment was like, yeah, he's been here like a week. Like, and they haven't played together, at least in Dortmund colors. So like just a little bit of miscommunication there, but as like he's had maybe a week of training with the squad. See that, not a big concern. It was just kind of a funny moment that stood out to me. And as he gets more embedded in this team, like who knows? Like I always thought he was decently solid. I don't think he was the best CDM we've ever, like really, really high end CDM, but I was never like too disappointed in his performances, especially if you look at him in purely that like CDM role, kind of getting stuck in and putting tackles in. Maybe not the best passer or ball progressor, definitely not the same like what we've been seeing with Mecha, but yeah, I'm fine with him coming back.
Did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about for Heidenheim, or just Tullberg before we crack open a little bit of Nico Kovač?
Not much on Heidenheim overall, but like I kind of said it talking about the Shakhtar game in Tullberg. Like didn't have a lot of expectations, just hoping for the best when he came in. And at first we thought it was going to be one game, and now we see 3, and he has just as many Bundesliga road points as Shaheen. Well, maybe not points. He one win on the road. I don't know where the draws, the draws in there, but yeah, getting a road win, doing just as much as Shaheen, and just the energy is incredible. Like he's been with the club for quite a while, coaching the U19s and U23s, and yeah, like not even like stylistically, but it just the football. Like I felt like I knew what was happening more. Like it just felt more simple, and I think you see that in Girassi getting the brace in Donetsk or against Shakhtar, right? Like it just seems like there's a little bit more structure or plan, or maybe like the guys know a little bit more what their roles are. Like that's been simplified. It's been maybe communicated a little bit better. It just felt better overall in these last couple of performances.
Well, I know he mentioned before, even the first game, that he wanted the players to have a bit more freedom and autonomy of how they're playing their game. I thought that he also brought some good ideas to the table too. I mean, Ryerson taking set pieces has been incredible. I mean, given how many technical players we have on this team, or at least whenever they're on their game. I think there shouldn't be any excuse for our set pieces to be as bad as they are. But simply having Ryerson, surprisingly, I mean, they've been so much more precise and purposeful for these last 2 games alone. So credit to him for, spotting that pretty early, because we were much more effective in our crossing and our set pieces with Ryerson there. So a good idea for him there. And there were some other ones too, but I like the confidence that he had to try some different things. And also, again, taking Adeyemi off, even though he was coming on in the second half too. I mean, that takes balls to do, especially whenever you're a U19 coach and you're doing that for a top athlete who arrived on big money. So yeah, respect to him. I'd like to see maybe him try to get some more experience at a senior level at some other club, and then maybe he can come back in the future. He clearly has a lot of passion and love for the club, as you saw in the scenes at the end of the Heidenheim game there. So yeah, we'll see. Either way, appreciate it, Tullberg. Thank you for these past few weeks and, making them not miserable.
Yeah, it was like enjoyable to watch Dortmund again. Yeah, you hit it, but he did a great job. And just the subs, like that, when you're talking about even taking Adeyemi off, like purely for like a tactical reason, and as you hit earlier too, a performance too, but like you knew what he was doing with the subs. I think they mentioned, I remember the commentary saying that on his first game, it was the Werder Bremen game, where he subbed off for 2 wingers and brought in, I don't remember who, I'm guessing Bayer and Duranville, and the commentators like, he does this with the U19s. He likes to keep the wingers fresh so they can keep putting that pressure on. It's like, what was Şahin doing with his, not to throw him under the bus too much, like we're moving on, it's fine. Yeah. But like, what I mean? There were so many confusing substitutions or lack of substitutions at some point. Like it was nice just knowing like he had a plan. He knew why he was subbing someone. And you see that on a few different occasions. The Adeyemi one is a really good example of it.
Şahin did learn from that. I do got to say, though, I mean, it's crazy how far you can look back for Dortmund managers the past, I don't know, decade since we've had Klopp. And so many of them have been insane with their substitutions. When in terms of just like the decisions of whenever they're bringing them on, the timing, the decisions of who they're bringing on to, just all the W's there. It was remarkable. But yeah, Şahin did, I think, improve a lot in that department. Of course, early on, it was atrocious for the reasons that we've mentioned plenty of times before. But yeah, I mean, it did seem a bit more purposeful with Tullberg for the double wingers in both of those games.
I want to put Tullberg down as like a kind of cult hero, Dortmund legend, which I hope that doesn't get spoiled. Like I hope they don't somehow bring him back. Like fast forward 6 months, Kovač is fired. They give Tullberg the full-time coaching job, and then things just tank. Like I don't want to tarnish his legacy. Let him have these 3 games. He'll forever be a legend in my mind. As you meant, if he goes off somewhere and gets a lot of experience, then comes back, I'm here for it. But don't bring him back too soon. I want this legend to live in my mind. Just hyping up the away fans, getting the win in Heidenheim. I want that forever. I'll hit really quickly on Champions League. I know we talked about Shakhtar Donetsk, but with that win, we finished 10th. So just outside of the top 8, which means we're going into the knockout round. And in the draw, we got Sporting Lisbon. So we'll play home and away leg, kind of like the semifinal, 2 home and away knockout round with 2 legs starting on February 11th. So next week against Sporting Lisbon. Do you have any, like I don't even remember the other teams we could have drawn, but like Lisbon, like
either them or Club Brugge,
which seems weird to me. I feel like we shouldn't be allowed to play them with already playing them in the group phase, but I don't hate this draw. Like I'm fine with it. And I know this is a match we should still be able to win. Could be a little difficult road win or road match, but yeah, I have confidence, and that confidence I'm putting in the hands of Nico Kovač. If you want to transition into this, as we said, a lot to cover. Tullberg out, but not for any bad reasons, but it's because Kovač is officially in. We're now in the Nico Kovač era.
Yeah, and he's been a name that's been floating around for several months now. Even in the video I made back in like November, I floated that idea of around if things were to get worse, he could be an option. He has clearly been a very polarizing figure so far, just from what I've been reading. And I understand, just given the history he's had at other clubs, he's had some success, and then he's had some really low lows as well. But I'm curious, though. Yeah, I'm curious of what this is going to look like in a few months, because if you look at this contract deal, it runs until 2026. Annual salary is $3.5 million, roughly. Champions League qualification bonus is about $750,000. There's no automatic contract extension clause based on success. And so we're looking at, a 1.5 year long contract at the moment. And I know Kovač was wanting only that deal and not just 6 months. So the club, pretty much had no other choice at the moment. But I'm wondering if we're actually going to see that contract out or just, get any sort of stability we can in the rest of the season and then look elsewhere in the summer and maybe pay out the rest of Kovac's contract. I don't know if that's actually financially feasible or not, but I would be surprised to see if he actually does do that year and a half, because I just don't think he's the man for that kind of position at the moment. But we'll see. I mean, he's got a few months to prove himself. Long term, though, I don't think he's the option at the moment. But yeah, any thoughts for you?
Just the fact that I know he's a little divisive. Like, even if you look at, I know his time at Wolfsburg is what's really hanging people up. And even while he was successful at Bayern, people will say he wasn't as successful as maybe some other Bayern teams. I mean, he still won the league. And I get the hesitancy and the reservation. Where I'm at right now, like, I'm just fully like, I don't want to come into this negative, right? Like, I'm happy that he's a coach that has a lot of experience. I call me like, maybe I'm a sucker, but like, just seeing the first day training photos, and he had that dope ass parka on that I really want, and he looked really cool. And sometimes if you're just look really cool as a coach, I'm hooked. But I'm back. Carver's dead. I just want to back him, right? Like, I just want what's best for the club. So I'm going to go in backing him. I'm not going to start off by like tearing down his records at other clubs. And the contract length is really interesting, because I know there was a lot of discussion about just seeing out the rest of the year. I also understand, like, from his point of view, not like, why would I only sign a 6-month contract? That's crazy. Like, give me my money. And if it goes well, like if he gets us into Champions League, I like that there's that incentive, that bonus for getting us into Champions League. And if it looks like we're on a decent trajectory and a good path, like, I'd rather have, if we were just going to do an interim for the next 6 months, just let Tullberg do that, right? Like, so if there's if we're bringing in a coach where there's a chance he can really turn things around, like, not just steady the ship, but turn things around, then yeah, I'm cool with keeping him until next year. And maybe then you give him an extension. Like, I think that would require a really big turnaround, a really big end of the season. But yeah, I'm going to back him and just hope that it goes well enough that they want to extend him at the start of next year.
It's a lot of pressure to put on Tullberg, as much as I also flirted with that idea as well, of just having him finish out the remainder of the season. That's a lot of pressure to put on a U19 coach to get us. I mean, we have to win games to get us back into the top 4. It's not like we could afford many here. Of course, again,
show me a match you lost. Show me a match you lost, Carver.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say it's crazy how every week, like, the further we fall, somehow teams above us are also dropping points. Frankfurt, Leipzig, other teams too. Stuttgart too. We have to win points either way. We have to do our part. And then outside of the Bundesliga as well, of course, we're out of the Pokal. We're in a pretty decent position in Europe as well. I mean, I'm not saying Tullberg could take us all the way, but you have some really big games coming up. And if you win against Sporting, I think you're kind of in a position now where it's like anybody's ball game to at least get to a semifinal. So, I'm not saying he can't do it, but at the same time, it's a lot of pressure and a big risk for the position that we're in. And I think, a coach with more experience, of course, is going to be a better fit for that. I'm curious to see if Kovač is actually going to be that person, because, too, experience aside, if you know anything about Kovač, with his demands in terms of just the intensity of his training and the physicality that it brings to it, a lot of people think he has he asks for too much control of the clubs that he works at. So I'm curious to see if there's any clashing there between, him and, of course, Sommer. We've seen plenty of examples of this in the past when it comes to the likes of Rosa or Vatska too, getting his hand in things. So, there's a lot of factors here and a lot of things still at play, but yeah, we'll have to see how things go these next few weeks. We got his first game coming up here this weekend.
Well, before I start talking about his first match this weekend, and I know he just did his first presser, obviously getting ready for this match, which I really wanted to watch, and I know it's up on their YouTube and they do the Twitch, but I don't speak. I've been doing Duolingo German for a year now, hit my 365-day streak, and I still can't really string that many words together. It's weird. Duolingo doesn't teach me anything about like any football verbs or anything. Like I can say like
Bundesliga has some good resources for that I could send you. And if anyone that doesn't know, I could post a link. Bundesliga's got some good pages with terminology for that sort of thing.
Newsblog, BVB Newsblog is a really great resource too. They usually share a lot of stuff. Anyways, before we start talk Stuttgart, a lot of other movement in Dortmund, as we alluded to. We brought 3 signings in on deadline day, and I like the profile of some of these signings. And let's start with the first one, Daniel Svensson, who is, what are we talking about? Swedish. We tried to take my notes beforehand. He's Swedish, but he played in Denmark for FC Nordsjælland. I'm not going to be able to pronounce that right. I'm just going to preface this now too. Like we get
Just
roasted.
power through.
We get roasted for pronunciations. I don't think any of these are going to be good coming up. Daniel Svensson, and he is a 22-year-old left back.
Mm-hmm.
Just looking at some of his numbers and performances with Nordsjælland. Jesus. Oh, no. I've said it so many times. I'm just happy that Benza Baini is going to have some competition. Yes, Benza Baini has been, now I can't even say his name. Remy's been great this year, but we need this depth and we need this ability to rotate. And Benza Baini is older too, so I love that he's young. I love that he's a guy we can kind of bring up, even though we had Tom Rota, rip. I like this signing, and seeing his numbers, he looks like a pretty attacking left back. It's a bit of a jump from the Danish league to the Bundesliga, but he's coming in. He's not coming in to be the starter. He's coming in to be a little bit of competition.
Well, we should note too that he's played a handful of, well, actually a good amount of games also in midfield as a central midfielder, so he's pretty versatile here. Looks like he can play the 8, sometimes the 6, and of course left back as well. Something that I thought was pretty interesting is, he's played a lot of football this last year. In the 2023-24 season, he played 48 games. I think it was like over 26 or 700 minutes in that division alone, 15 goal contributions. It looks like we got another promising signing here. I've seen, some people compare him to the likes of Rierson in terms of like his actual sporting ability. And I haven't watched much of anything of him, but hopefully we're trying to have someone on the show here soon, or at least do a little segment that can have some insight for more of that aspects of his game here. But
and help us pronounce the club name.
Was that?
And help us pronounce the club name.
That's all we're going to have. And thank you so much. Appreciate that. Either way, I think this could be a very solid signing, like you mentioned. Yeah. And Svensson is just on a few-month loan here, but there is the option to buy for 5 or 6 million, around that figure. And I think the club is looking to exercise that. So yeah, this could be a case where, although it didn't happen with Matson and Sancho, this would be a similar case where I think it's a lot more financially feasible for actually getting the signature for a permanent transfer.
Well, I'll be honest. I thought we signed him. I didn't know it was a loan. So now I felt like I was already in love with him, and now I'm going to try to restrain my emotions.
We're breaking the rule number 1 here for being a Dortmund fan.
Dang it. All right, next up, again, pronunciations. I'm sorry. Ramaj. I don't know if that's how you say it. What was he? I think 23-year-old goalkeeper from Ajax. Mm-hmm. He is a German national, though, which is pretty interesting, bringing him back home. Although we are sending him out on loan to FC Copenhagen. Young goalkeeper. I think he's played 1 match with Ajax. I know I saw some. The big talking point here, like signing a goalkeeper, is what's going on with Kobel. And luckily, we didn't see Kobel leave in this transfer window, which a lot of people were kind of speculating. But it's likely that he could go in the summer. And I like this signing one. I mean, Meyer is older than Kobel is. I think he's like 33, totally, 34, yeah. Maybe. Yeah. So he's obviously not the future goalkeeper. I know we do have Lokta, who plays quite a bit with the under 23s, I think. But I like this guy coming in, or I like the profile of this signing and the fact that we're sending him out on loan because he has not been playing with Ajax. So if he can go to Copenhagen, be their number 1 for the next 6 months. I don't know if he's going to be ready to come in and be our number 1 next year if Kobel leaves, but I just like the planning, and I like that it looks like we're moving to get him first team minutes, which we need if we want him to be ready for potential number 1 spot next year.
And well, he did also play some games for Ajax last year as well, but just the 1 game for the senior team this year. Yeah, I think he played for their second team, if I'm not wrong, or one of their youth teams. But either way, yeah, scratch my head a bit about this one. I understand it in the case that if Kobel does leave, but I guess just like it's the if that I'm still kind of held up on. If we don't qualify, I understand Kobel is wanting to be at a club where he can win things and be in a position to win things. So I understand if we don't, but if we do, I'm just confused, I guess, what would happen then. So yeah, I don't have too much more else to say on this one. I trust the club, hopefully. I mean, seems promising.
All right, in the next move, which there was quite a few links with with this guy, and this was one where we were linked with a lot of central midfielders, a lot of eights, and this is the one that came through. But Carney, Chukwuemeka, oh my gosh, I thought I was going to hit that one. I've been practicing that one, and I butchered that one too. But signing him on loan from Chelsea, I don't hate this signing. Earlier when we were talking about Sabitzer, I was saying I know he's only on loan, so I don't want to fall in love with this guy either, because who knows? And I think his buyout option is like 40 million, which seems crazy. If we weren't doing that for Matson, I don't think we're going to do that for this guy. But if I'm going to say, let's look at midfielders or try to future-proof, like we've talked about it before, obviously Sabitzer hasn't had a great year, and he's on big wages, and he's also older. And then we look at Pascal Gross, who I think he had a really good start to the year, but I think he's gone down a little bit, and he's obviously older too. Like, I wasn't too concerned his age when we brought him in, because I thought there'd be a lot of rotation, and then we just played him every 3 days, and I don't think he can quite do that.
Every 3 days in every position.
Yeah. Like, oh, can you actually play right back? Oh, can you play? Yeah. Like, if Gross sticks around, like, I don't mind having Gross stick around as like a utility player where we need him, but he shouldn't be like a starter in every position every 3 days. Like, I don't think he can do that anymore. Saying that, like, I wish we would have signed like a left-sided center back or another center back rather than an 8. When you look at the future proofing aspect, that's okay. But when it's just a guy on loan, I don't know, because I also see he's going to be fighting for Reyna for a spot too. So with him coming in, you think maybe Reyna's out, but it's just a loan, and they didn't loan Reyna out. So I don't really know. I don't hate having another midfield option. I wish we had other options instead. The one thing I do like, I like that he's got a relationship with Jamie Gittens. Club really rolled into that in their socials with kind of hyping up their friendship, and they know each other from playing in the England U21s, I believe, and the youth system. So that's cool. I like that aspect. They also hit really hard, just like, we signed another young English guy, and I'm like, are you going to keep him around? I don't know. Don't make me fall in love again. I don't hate the signing, but I think it could be hard for him to really get in the team, just depending on how we shift things around.
I gotta respectfully disagree here. I mean, just given what you said with Sabitzer's form, with Gross's age, with Mecha's injury, and with Reyna's lack of defensive efforts, I think this could be a really good hole for him to slot in here. I saw the club use Chewy as a nickname here. I imagine that originated obviously before here, but I'm going to just stick with that for now. Chukwuemeka, yeah, he's an athlete. He's got defensive and attack-minded aggression in midfield. He can play as that 8. He's played as a right mid, as a number 7 here at times too. I like this signing. Like you mentioned, it's a loan. The option doesn't look like it's going to be something that Dortmund would exercise given the fee. But either way, I think he could be a really great addition in midfield here and bring a little bit kind of what we saw Mecha just from what I mentioned before, and bring a little bit more of that back until Mecha is back. And maybe, who knows, they could be a decent double pivot or something like that.
Do you see him playing in like a midfield 3, or possibly even out a little wider as a like right mid, like Mullen position?
I think he's going to probably do both. I would imagine he's going to probably be starting as that number 8 at the moment. I don't think Sabitzer is going to be that person. I don't think Gross is going to be that person. I don't think Brandt's going to be that person. And I don't think Reyna is going to be that person. And that's not too much of a hit on Reyna as much as everyone else there on that list. It's just the reasons I mentioned already. I think Chukwuemeka is going to be a little bit more aggressive. He's more of an athlete. He's larger. I think he's just going to be a bit more of that grit in midfield. But also, too, he can get in advanced positions as well, which I think is going to be helpful.
Yeah, 21 years old. It'll be interesting to see where he plays. And I think, given Mecha, it would be cool to see, if Mecha was healthy, like a midfield of Mecha, Chukwuemeka, and Brandt. Like, I think that could be really exciting, given Sabitzer and how he's been. I'm excited to see what happens just this weekend and see how quickly he can integrate, as well as Svensson. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens as we're getting ready for Stuttgart.
Yeah, so looking at the weekend here, a quick report on the team. Looks like we're going to have pretty much a fully available squad outside of Schlotterbeck still serving his suspension, and Sula is returning to training actually today as of February 5th. It'll be a few more days for him to actually get fully fit, of course. I'm not sure what the back line is going to look like. Kovač apparently is fancying putting Chan there over Anton in that center back partnership. Maybe it's just the both of them, or Sula can start. Maybe he slots in there, but either way, Chukwuemeka, Svensson are both in the squad and will be available against Stuttgart. So you are missing a few pieces in the back line, but for the most part, you do have pretty much a fully available squad. This is going to be a huge game. Winless in our last 5 meetings now against Stuttgart. It's been quite a while since we've ever even really given them a run for their money. We look very limp and defeated just at the start of every game the past few years that we played against them, which is sad to see, but hopefully this could be a good rejuvenating game at home, of course, and, be huge 3 points for us to get against them to, rip them back here in the table and get closer to the top 4. I mean, Stuttgart's in 5th right now, and they're only 3 points ahead, so we could be right there and potentially even leapfrog.
Yeah, table-wise, we definitely need the win. I think it will be tough, as you mentioned, like our recent performances against Stuttgart. New coach bounce, I'm really going to bank on that. Just good vibes, and the fact that we are at home, like I'm not good vibes because of the coach, but being at home, fresh start. Yeah, this is a team like that's going to be pretty tough, but it would be such a huge lift for the fans. And a really good start for Kovač if he can actually get a good result I want to say win. Like I don't want a good draw. Like I want to win. If he can start his campaign with a win, then things are going to be looking up as we just look to close out the rest of the season.
And if you look at Stuttgart's most recent form, a narrow win in the Pokal against Augsburg, and then 3 straight defeats before that, given it was a pretty congested fixture list in these past 2 weeks or so. But either way, I mean, Gladbach beat them, Mainz have beat them. I'm not sure if we fall into that category just because Stuttgart have been really outperforming and playing against us again for the past 5 meetings, but this could be a really great opportunity for the reasons you mentioned and I mentioned.
We don't always do this, but I want to do a lineup prediction. I want to get your preferred lineup and see who, because now we have some options, right? We got a healthy squad. The lineup doesn't totally pick itself, which it has for most of the season due to injuries, but especially with these new players coming in. Chukwuemeka, I was actually going to mention earlier too, like he hasn't seen a lot of time with Chelsea in the Premier League, but he has been on their Europa League squad where they shifted full 11. So he has been playing somewhat consistently with Chelsea in that competition. So even if you haven't seen him in Premier League, like he's still getting minutes and he could be ready to start. I think that's an interesting one there. It's like he could come in and start. Maybe we'll see that at midfield 3 with him in there. It could be interesting. Or even on the right, like you said. But yeah, what do you have for a potential 11?
It's tough to say just because, not to use that as a cop-out here, but you got a few training sessions left before that game, and I think a lot of that is, going to be important in terms of just how Kovač actually chooses his 11 here. I mean, it's, like you said, a fresh start, and it's an opportunity for any and all players to really get themselves into that starting 11. However, given from the posts that I've seen recently with him potentially winning Chan in that back line, and then Anton also being the former captain of Stuttgart, I'm going to go with them for my center back partnership. I don't think also Sule will be ready. Maybe he can get anywhere from 15, 20 minutes later in the game if we need it. I'll have Rierson on the right. Benzabaini has been kind of playing out of his mind. I'll have him on the left. Midfield, at the moment, I think I do want to have Chukwuemeka in that midfield at the moment. I mean, again, it depends on how he trains these next 2 days and how he looks. But just given for the players that I mentioned before, I think he's above them. Maybe him and Gross in the midfield, because I think before the ball circulation looked pretty good of Mecha and Gross, and whenever Mecha got that injury, he looked a little bit more static in midfield, so maybe Chukwuemeka can help unlock that a bit more and get some more ball circulation in midfield. I'll have Brandt as the 10, even though he's been really underperforming. Actually, maybe Reyna. I think I'm actually going to go Reyna over Brandt. And then I'll have Gittens and Duranville on the wings with Garcia up top.
It changed up quite a bit from what I thought. Like I thought maybe we were going to have the same lineup, similar. And it is interesting, like the Reyna shout, because a new coach coming in, that's what makes things even more crazy, right? Like if it's a little more predictable if things weren't changing so much. But yeah, anyone can come in and like have a really good week at training and really want to perform for the new coach. So it does make things really interesting, especially with the new signings. Backline, I think that's exactly right. That's what I would go with too. I think Gross, Chukwuemeka, and Brandt in the midfield with Gittens on the left, Adeyemi on the right, and Girassi up top. I just think Adeyemi, being a little older, a little more experienced, I think he'll probably get the start. But score predictions.
2-1 Dortmund.
Going 3-1.
Go crazy. Shit.
I'm going crazier, 3-1.
They're probably going to score more than 1 goal against us. I just wanted to be delusional for a few seconds.
Vibes. Just run on vibes.
Yeah,
That's what I
just
mean. I'm in
vibes.
California right now, just vibing out. So I'm
Must be
all
nice.
about the vibes. Yeah. So Dortmund home, Stuttgart this Saturday to kick off the Kovač era. Kickoff is at West Coast time is throwing me off. 9:30 Eastern time, and then continuing the Champions League with knockout round against Sporting Lisbon on Tuesday. Yep, Tuesday. You got anything else, Carver?
Champions League is right around the corner. It's kind of crazy. Yeah. Big week.
I thought there was going to be a bigger break in the Champions League.
Me too. There used to be. Yeah. This whole format's got me on a whole different planet.
I like it. Like, I think, seeing so many different teams. I don't like how tight the table is. I kind of like there being a table, but like the numbers are so tight. It's so unpredictable, which I guess is kind of a good thing. It's fun seeing some of those bigger clubs like be so low in the table.
I was going to say, because I feel like by design, that's what they were trying to do the opposite of. And also get rid of like these big matchups so early in the knockout stage of like Madrid and Man City, and that's still happening. So that's a bit of that's a good laugh, but yeah.
Business into the Champions League coming up on Tuesday, Stuttgart on Saturday, and we will be back after that. We appreciate you guys hanging out. Carver, I did not talk about the C and D. I don't know if we need to talk about it. I will give a shout and just say everyone who was able to buy merch, we appreciate you buying merch and supporting the show. Rip. See you guys later.
See ya.